Hey there, thanks for tuning in to episode 23, which is actually the final episode of our season one. We may do some other little segments throughout the fall and the winter, but and before I get too far ahead of myself, hey Greg,
Hello, episode 23, a classic number to wrap up a season on.
isn't it though?
HBO, Showtime, Showcase, they all
Yeah,
do the
yeah.
same thing. We're just following the
We're
trend.
just we're trying to model the trends for sure. So.
Well, we planned 20, I think.
We did. We said we would stop at 20, and Greg just couldn't stop.
I couldn't shut up.
He just doesn't. You probably noticed that, but yeah. Um, no, it was. We could probably keep going, but we're gonna take a little bit of a break and plan out season two. We're excited about season two. The feedback that we've gotten through season one has been everything that we had hoped for. And it's hard to believe that we are 23 episodes in, isn't it, Greg?
Man,
I mean, it
flew.
doesn't seem like that long ago that we were just talking about this idea.
Yeah,
And speaking of talking about this idea, what we're going to do is just explain where we're coming from and how this podcast came to be, and hopefully you enjoyed it and you will enjoy season two and follow us along. And so basically, yeah, this podcast was just a result of a few conversations that Greg and I had. Greg was, I used to have a discussion forum site called Maritime Gardening, which was just that. It was designed for online. It was an online forum for
message
gardening.
board.
Yeah, message board. And it went over okay. There was a number of members. I think we had 500 and something registered members, but not a lot of engagement. Greg was one of the few engaged members, and he contacted me last winter, and near the end of last winter, I think it was, Greg,
Yeah.
in the new year, and just was wondering what was going on, and expressed his keen interest in gardening. And so I'll kind of flip it over to you a bit there, Greg, because you actually do run a bit of a business in with gardening, right? So not just this podcast.
Yeah, well, the one had nothing to do with the other, I guess, so I don't know which one to talk about first, but um, I'll talk about the podcast first, I guess. I'm an avid gardener, and I do run a business where I build organic gardens for people, vegetable gardens primarily, but um, I was running into a source of frustration because certain times of the year, for me, it tends to be March. And around March, I start getting this overwhelming itch to start watching gardening content on YouTube, and I want to start reading about gardening, and I'm just getting really excited for the coming year. But I've never found a good resource for gardening in this part of the world.
Hmm. Right.
This zone 5 is colder. Most, and it might be that there's a critical mass of gardening content from warmer places because they're just better places to garden.
Hmm.
In a place that's, like, let's say zone 8, there's probably more people gardening because it's, you probably have more success as a gardener. You're going to think you're better. I think
Right.
it's harder to feel like you're good at it here because you have to be,
Hmm.
there's a narrower assortment of things you can plant,
Hmm.
and you got to be clever on how you do it, or it won't work out well either.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, a frustration of not finding a place to go and connect with other people who are trying to do the same thing under similar conditions,
Right.
and that's what brought me to talk to Dave.
Yeah.
And then we generally said, well, he just said, well, I'm kind of doing the podcast thing now. Would you want to do one?
That's it. That's how I said it too.
And it worked out okay for me because I have a business where and I just run this during the year. I teach part time at St. Mary's University. Teach like something completely unrelated to gardening. I teach like statistics and how to do surveys and research methods and stuff like that. So it's about the driest thing in the world.
Yeah.
But and then in the spring and early summer, just because it's my passion. I started this up a number of, last year was my second year of doing it. I just got this idea of having a business where I build vegetable gardens for people that I was at one of these farmers markets, and I couldn't get over the price of all the produce, and none of it looked as good as what I was growing in my own backyard, at least on that day. And that year I had an exceptional garden, just an exceptional garden. So I thought, man, well, some of these people, I'm going to guess they've got land because this stuff is like really expensive.
Yeah.
And I wonder how many of them would want to just be able to get this out of their backyard like I do. So I started up Sun and Soil Custom Organic Gardens. Although I build permaculture gardens for people, but because no one knows what on earth that word means, I call it custom organic gardens.
Yeah.
Once they hire me, I have to explain that, look, this is what I'm shooting for, but on the good side, it's much easier to maintain. You don't have to water it as much or weed it as much, and it's going to be it's going to be an easier experience than what you think of in your mind. So the whole point of the business is is to make money, but also to raise awareness about permaculture as just a great way to go about gardening. And this year was much better than the previous year. And
excellent.
See how next year goes. But doing the podcast was perfect because it allows me to, all day when I was working on other people's gardens, I'd have all kinds of ideas for episodes. And on top of that, because I talk for a living as a professor,
it just made sense.
It was setting the, when I initially presented Dave with 20 episodes.
Yeah, I know.
I had it set up just like a syllabus for a course.
Yeah, it was kind of overwhelming actually, because I, normally I've done a few other podcasts completely unrelated to gardening. I'll back up a notch. My gardening knowledge is almost zero. And I'm learning as I go with what Greg knows. It's not a super passion of mine. My grandfathers were both avid gardeners, so I do have an interest in that aspect. But anyway, yeah, usually when I reach out to somebody to interview for a podcast, there's a bit of a hesitation, even just to have them on one episode. A little bit nervous to put their money where their mouth is, or whatever. Mouth where their money is. And
here's my 20 episodes that I've already out with.
So that's what Greg did. I remember I was sitting down one night and just checked or I think it was an email at that time, and he sends over this email, and I'm like, wow, this is there's season 1.
We went off the script.
We went off a little bit, but not too.
That sticking to something that stiff is kind of boring, and
right.
It was much more fun to I'd be out in my garden and I'd just say, oh, this is something I've never done, something I'd never heard people talk about, or I just realized that there's a way I do something that I listen to other gardening shows. So it's like, they don't talk about this. This is, and that's where I try to come in with the episodes. I realize what other people aren't talking about.
Right.
That's what I want to talk about, right?
For sure.
Makes it useful to listeners.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. So it has worked out really well, and I didn't know Greg at all before he called me, or we connected by phone back last winter, and we seemed to, I would venture to say, just from what some of the listeners have told us, sort of complement each other in our style that we bring to the show. So I'm basically the technical background side of things, and Greg's the, as close to the subject matter expert as we have. So that's I know he doesn't like being called an expert. I don't have a formal background in you couldn't say I was a horticulturist, sir. Yeah, but who does? My real business, doing web development and video development, I have essentially no credentials other than my experience of what I've done in it. So we're similar in the entrepreneur environment that way. Right. But Greg, it's obvious to anybody who listens that Greg knows what he's doing. He's put in a lot of time, and he's reaped the benefits, and he's eaten the benefits, and and he's he's the man as far as maritime gardening goes. So we'll just kind of touch on what we've done this season, as far as the reach that we've had. It's been kind of interesting to watch because we really haven't done much promotion outside of some free Facebook sharing and different Facebook groups, relying on some of you listeners to share or like things when we put them out, and emailing that list that I had originally from the gardening discussion forum site message board. That's it. That's all we have. So, but as of today, we're creeping up on 3,100 downloads from the 22 episodes. So not counting the one that you're hearing now.
Which will have millions.
Yes, we fully expect to crash the server.
Everybody wants to know the making of. Highly awaited.
How it's made. Yeah, how it's made. So yeah, the numbers are good. We're very pleased. We've had some good user listener interactions, and we would encourage you, if you are a listener, to give us feedback when you can, and by all means, if you're able to share when we put out an episode, whether it's on Facebook or just forwarding an email to somebody, or just tell somebody that that you think might be into gardening. It will help. Every little bit helps. And as season 2 approaches, we're hoping to perhaps merge with some partners and maybe take this thing to the next level where it can be something that we can spend more time on. So that's exciting. And and like Greg said, his business side of things as far as the gardening world goes is Sun and Soil. It's sunandsoil.ca, right, Greg?
That's right.
Yeah, so we'll link to that in the show notes of this episode, no question. We'll probably have a little write-up on it. And what else do we want to touch on here? Oh, the geographics of the listenership.
Yes, right.
You can.
I'm just amazed at I'm amazed that a third of our listeners are Americans. Mm-hmm. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. I'm gonna
1,020.
Yeah, I mean it's fascinating because the vast majority of our listenership is in Canada, which the vast majority is in Atlantic Canada, which is what we kind of hoped.
That stands to reason.
Yeah, but we do in fact have, like Greg said, about a third of our listenership is from the United States. We also have a small listenership everywhere from China, the United Kingdom, Norway.
What's interesting too, the American listeners, like I would say, almost half of them are from California and Florida.
Yeah, I'm going to bring that up now. Oh yeah, look at that. The vast majority are California and Florida. I mean, that is not Zone 5.
That ain't Zone 5, man.
Right. So maybe a lot of gardeners, a lot of people there that garden?
Yeah, or maybe the whole permaculture wood chip gardening thing is bigger there.
Yeah. Oh, that's entirely possible.
That could be,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So
interesting. But it is fascinating. When we do the show, we're kind of visualizing maybe a room full of local gardeners, right?
Maybe they're all movie stars.
That's it. Well, if they are, they're not sharing our content. So.
The Celebrities Podcast.
Yes, Celebrity Gardener. So fascinating how that's going. I'm sure it will change as the new seasons come. We're happy to be doing this. It does take a significant amount of time and effort, planning and all that, but we feel that it's being well received. If you have anything you want to say at all, good or bad, by all means, just go to the website or our Facebook page and shoot us a message.
Anything you'd like to see in an episode on, I'm totally. I think that's better. I've had some of the better episodes. I think where things listeners were wondering about. That the whole reason I started this was to have a place to go to get information about gardening, in this kind of or what I thought was there's a need out there to have a resource for people gardening in this zone.
Yeah.
But also, I think there's a need out there to have a resource for people that are rethinking gardening or
Mm-hmm.
want to come at it from not the conventional way. They're interested in permaculture,
Mm-hmm.
or they're just looking for a different take on the whole thing.
Yeah.
Different assumptions. I mean, just the other day I was listening to a gardening show, and they were saying how, this summer was an exceptionally dry summer, and
Right.
there was drought problems and all that sort of stuff. And they said, raised beds can really help with that. And I was listening, going, how on earth a raised bed will not help with that? It only helps because if you have a raised bed, you can install an irrigation system in it.
Right. Right.
So it only helps insofar as you don't have to dig up the ground to put all the hoses in and hook them up
Right.
to your house and all that.
Right.
But it doesn't. I mean, it's the opposite. I mean, it drains out.
Yeah. Yeah.
My raised beds are. I've got raised beds and I got level beds. I got all kinds of different things,
Mm-hmm.
and they're the driest by a landslide. They're the driest.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if you made your raised bed a hogoculture garden, that would be different. But
Right.
if you go to the wood chip paths between my raised bed, those are wet,
Yeah.
and the raised bed will be bone dry.
Right.
Even today, I mean, I was digging some potatoes in a raised bed, and it's rained all day, right?
Yeah.
And the top 2 inches was wet, but down where the potatoes were, it was bone dry.
Yeah.
Bone dry. You could
Yeah.
have put, you could have put a book or something there. It would have
Yeah,
would have been dry.
Yeah. And if you want to listen to the episode that we did on raised beds, it's episode 9. So you can just go to maritimegardening.com/09.
Raised beds, are they all that or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Are they all they're cracked up to be?
Yes, exactly. And I was saying, no, they're not.
No, no, they're not. And but it's interesting because, like you said, you were listening to another show, and difference of opinions, obviously. And I'm not
Yeah.
sure, I'm not sure what their logic was.
One of the hosts and the guest had just written a book on raised beds.
That's the logic, right there. So when
I
we,
mean, they can be. I mean, you can get
Yes.
great results in a raised bed. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong.
yeah,
But
sure,
they do not solve your watering problem. You have to. They create a watering problem you have to solve.
yeah, they're great.
I mean, if you have a swamp,
Yeah,
then it's good. You probably need a raised bed to get up out of that.
right, right.
But
And as we said in the episode, nothing wrong with raised beds. Just
especially if you need it for your back or something.
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
exactly.
Never.
And they are kind of nice to look at and stuff. But as far as
Sure.
organizing, but like Greg said, not the greatest thing, especially during a dry spell.
No, unless you have it's a hogoculture garden. I think that raised bed episode we talked about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna look through
I have
here.
to build one of those.
Yes, you have that in there in the show notes.
Yeah, I have to build one of those because that is a way to, because you're basically building your raised bed on top of a bunch of old rotten wood, which absorbs water like a sponge and even
Keeps
like
it moist.
So today, one of my gardens, it looks like a raised bed, but it's a bed that I built on the slope of a hill.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a raised bed, but it's like, I don't know what you would call that, a triangle.
Right.
It's going up a slope. So
Yeah.
I've got, I put some logs, 3 logs high in the front
Yeah.
to level it off. But if you go down it, it's different depths. It's varying depths as you get towards the back of the hill, sort of thing.
Right. Right.
There's probably pictures in it in some of the episodes. I've got pictures of that
Yes.
garden there. I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
Probably earlier in the season when I
Right.
had my
Right.
potatoes growing there.
Yeah.
Anyway, the front of it is these big rotten logs that I dragged out of the woods. And when you're digging the potatoes, guess where all the potatoes are? They're right up against the rotten logs because they're full of water, and
Yeah.
potatoes have an affinity for water,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And at the back of the garden, there's rotten logs at the front and rocks at the back.
Yeah.
All the potatoes. I mean, I planted my potato plants in the middle,
Yeah.
but all the potatoes I'm finding are either like at the back where the rocks are, or at the front where the logs are,
Right. Right.
because that's the 2 places that seem to stay moist.
Yeah.
Well, underneath the rock's always wet, right?
Yeah. Yeah. For
And,
sure.
That's where you go to find your worms and salamanders and stuff.
Yeah.
And,
Exactly.
And the logs never seem to dry out because they just have such an affinity for water. They absorb it.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
anyway.
Yeah, did you see how he went off on that rant?
Exactly.
That's what I have to deal with editing.
Oh yeah, this is probably a nightmare.
Mm-hmm. No, it's all good.
What's the other thing we were going to talk about? I think I might do some YouTube videos.
Yes.
I haven't gotten up the nerve to do it yet, but
No, YouTube doing a video is a lot different than doing this, because we can be sitting in here in our pajamas, which we may or may not be, and
well, also just like there's times where I'll be out in my garden and I'll be doing something, and then I'll think I should have filmed that.
right, exactly.
Some people probably would have gotten a kick out of that.
Yeah, you can talk about it, but it may have a better effect if somebody can actually see it.
But so you got to have that foresight of bringing out the tripod and setting up the camera and
All that jazz, yeah.
or having to repeat a whole segment because you did it wrong.
Exactly.
All that stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, another side of why I've been fascinated with this audio podcasting thing. I've been in the video world. Basically, I've built my business. My bread and butter business is built on video and the success of video, and which is why this audio podcasting thing kind of threw me for a loop when I heard about it almost 10 years ago now. But it's great because you can be driving somewhere now and just play it through your phone, through your Bluetooth in your vehicle. A lot of people listen to podcasts when they're commuting, when they're working, times and situations where pulling up a YouTube video is either not a good idea or illegal. So, I think that's why it works. Not to mention that, we don't have to worry about what we look like. And, as long as we are talking, we're producing. So it's fascinating, but we're going to dabble in doing some video, like Greg said, see what we can do there, which may draw, an added audience that may otherwise not have heard about us. So,
well, and I mean, anyone that's what I'm thinking in my mind is to do some of the things I talked about doing in the fall.
Right.
So, because a lot of them, it's kind of handy to see someone do it. So
Right.
a lot of that fall gardening stuff, because I'm such a strong advocate for, being in your garden in the fall, being active in your garden right up until the thing freezes. There's no reason not. You can get so much done this time of year. Not on days like today. I was out picking potatoes today and I got drenched.
Yeah.
The garden, it's funny, the soil's dry, but I was wet.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, it would be useful to show some of that stuff, some of what I was talking about.
Right. Right.
So
you can watch for basically, we're going to have a Maritime Gardening YouTube channel. I believe I already have it set up, but when we do that, I'll, we'll link to it and we'll let you know. We'll send out emails. And
fine, yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of emails, be sure, if you're not already a subscriber, basically all we do when we have a new episode that we release, anything of importance, we send it out to the email list. Sometimes those emails get caught in spam filters, so if you're not receiving them, let us know. We'll see if there's anything we can do there. Eventually, that may change to more of a text message marketing effort down the road. I know that's basically the trend now. So anyway, keep in touch with us. You can just click on the connect page of maritimegardening.com and you can subscribe to our email list. You can send us an email message. You can record us a voice message and, maybe get an idea for an upcoming show next season. Let us know.
Yeah.
I can't remember if there was anything else of any great significance we were going to talk about today or not. Just kind of a end of season wrap up. Like say 23 episodes. This is 23 episodes. So you get 22 episodes of great gardening content that you can go back through, listen to whenever you want. Subscribe on iTunes, and they'll automatically download as we release them. So that's a handy little feature there.
Yes. There was a gardening thing I wanted to talk about.
Let's do that.
Oh, we should talk about some gardening thing.
Probably not a bad idea.
Last episode.
Yeah.
There was an episode where we talked about cold frames.
Yep.
And I was talking about, man, is it really worth it? Is it worth the time? Is it worth the energy? Okay.
Yeah.
And today was a good example of my argument for why I don't really know if they're worth the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the perspective I didn't bring up last time, we should talk about something gardening today. So
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is the
yeah.
last thing I leave people with for the season in terms of gardening is the whole idea of having a cold frame is connected with the notion that we should be eating things in the winter that don't grow in the winter,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, so it's part of a bigger point of view that we have here as North Americans. I can't speak to Europeans or people from the other parts of the world that listen to the show, but the notion that, I want an orange, I'm going to eat an orange whenever I want.
Yeah.
Or I want strawberries and I want them fresh and I'm going to eat them all year long because I like strawberries. Or I want lettuce all year.
Right.
And I see the cold frame is connected to that point of view. Whereas it's so much more efficient and so much easier to just accept that there's things that have seasons.
Right.
And if you work with and this is a permaculture sort of thing, if you work, because it's about working with nature and just sort of
Mm-hmm.
dovetailing everything.
Right.
I love that metaphor of the dovetail because I think in life there's many things that fit so effortlessly.
Right.
So if you think of your food as seasonal, well, then there's things that are going to be abundant now, and there's things that are going to be abundant later.
Right.
And like right now, the apples are around, right?
Mm-hmm.
My favorite apple, the Cortland apple, it's only good for like 2 or 3 weeks, and it tastes like rubbish.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I can't eat them until it starts to. I've eaten too many.
Yeah.
But they're so good this time of year, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean that there's an apple. There's a thing you can only. I mean that's a perfect a metaphor. That's you can only enjoy it now because you cannot eat. It's not like a Macintosh where they're not bad in December.
Right.
Cortlands are done in December.
Yeah.
They've never produced a Cortland that's any good any other time but now.
Yeah, yeah.
So why work so hard to have a bit of kale in late December?
Right.
You can just eat I mean, today, and the reason I'm thinking of this is today we had a nice meal, Sunday dinner sort of thing, and it was all root vegetables,
Mm-hmm.
potatoes and carrots and stuff like that. And oh man, it was so good, right? And I've got so many potatoes and so many carrots, and I've got parsnips as well, though they're not really ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good. My
Yeah,
garden
yeah.
will be feeding us for months.
Yeah.
And I mean, in terms of the potatoes, the parsnips, and the carrots, I mean, I pretty much put the stuff in the ground and walked away and let it take care of itself. I didn't do anything.
Right.
The parsnips and carrots, I watered them a bit until they were about 2 inches high. And then I applied a good mulch and didn't do a thing. Not a thing. I didn't even weed them. There's a couple little weeds in there that, because, once they get a certain height, you can't see the weeds.
Mm-hmm.
Once they're a foot high or so, you can't see
anything.
You don't even know what's in there, right?
Right, right.
I was in there once. There was a rabbit in there. I was in the garden with my daughter, and I thought it was a toad.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, look, Brooke, there's a frog." And I put my hand in, and this rabbit took off. I almost had a heart attack.
She's like, Dad doesn't know the difference between a frog and a rabbit.
Well, it was small. It was like
I'm just kidding.
Size of a guinea pig.
Yeah, yeah. A little baby rabbit.
Scared the life out of me.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ridiculous. I'm scared of a rabbit. It just I wasn't as I was expecting to jump out.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is that it can be so much easier when you're thinking of designing your garden, right? Because remember, I talk about this time of year, you think about designing next year's garden.
Yeah.
To bear that in mind, yes, there's going to be all these things that I'm going to be eating in the spring. I'm going to have the spinach, and I'm going to have the squash and the cucumbers and all these sorts of things. But if you hive off a portion of your garden to just produce things that can stay in the ground till late in the fall,
Mm-hmm.
they don't mind frost. And also, those are things that you can take up and you can store. And they store really well and effortlessly, right? I mean, just put them in a cardboard box and eat them when you feel like it.
Yeah.
Over the course of 3 months.
Yeah.
To me, that's so much more effortless than, growing a little bit of kale. If you've got a cold frame that's 2 feet high and 8 feet wide and let's say 3 feet from front to back, that's 8 kale plants. 8. And at the height of the summer, that's not a bad group of kale plants.
Right.
But by October, November, they're growing at a snail's pace.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes 2 good-sized kale plants. You got to take. Normally, what I do with my kales, I'll take 1 or 2 leaves off everything, right?
Right.
That'll make about 1 or 2. It'll make like 1 good kale's worth. It has the effect of taking 1 whole kale plant, but it doesn't kill the plant, right?
Right.
But that's 1 meal. That's 1 supper.
Hmm.
So if you got 8 kale plants, you get 8 suppers. If you got 8 kale plants that aren't growing, but aren't dying, but aren't really growing at any appreciable rate, right? They're not doubling, the leaves aren't doubling in size every 3 days or whatever, which is what they do when it's warm. You're going to be, if you like to eat kale, you're going to be through it in weeks.
Yeah.
So what was the point of buying all that glass and buying all that wood and lifting the lid every time you have to water it?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Whereas you could have just filled it with a root vegetable or a winter squash and just let it go.
Yeah.
And then, and in October you just pick them all and stick them in a box and put them in your garage or something, and you get them whenever you want.
Yeah.
So that to me makes much more sense, and that sort of perspective is what I think this. I could change my mind, but that's the kind of stuff I want to have on the show. It's just going against whatever. I don't know why the grain's gone that way right now, but it doesn't make any sense to me. This stuff would have made no sense to anyone 50 years ago.
No.
And it's not because I'm particularly old-fashioned or anything like that. It's more just a matter of just stepping back from your own normal and thinking, are all the things we think are normal right now, does it make sense that they're normal? Or have we kind of lost our minds in certain regards?
I think we are slowly losing our minds.
Exactly. And I could be wrong about all this stuff. I mean, it's good to have the discussion and bring it up.
Yeah.
But I've tried some of the stuff in my garden, and I'm going to build a system of not cold frames. I'm going to build a system of things that were going to look like cold frames, and I'm really building them as little greenhouses that will be dismantled. They're like it'll function as a greenhouse in March and April and May and June.
Yeah.
But as soon as it's hot, the tops are going to come right off of those things, and they're just going to be garden beds like anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't want to have to water them.
Yeah.
I want them to be watered by the sky.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't want to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
It seems so much easier for me, and I don't want to put so they're going to be for growing hot things, heat-loving plants. So, once it gets cold, those plants are doomed anyway. You can't,
you
can't grow tomatoes in a cold frame.
No.
I mean, you can extend them a bit, but, they're just not gonna, it's not gonna work,
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know if it's really something that makes sense for Zone 5, other than a hobby or a curiosity or a fun little thing to try.
Yeah.
But certainly the efforts I've made, it wasn't worth the time I put into it, except as a greenhouse to get things like this year, my little cold frame greenhouse, blah, 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 whatever you want to call it. I straight seeded tomatoes on April 1st.
Yeah.
And they all grew, and they grew big. So certainly as a greenhouse, it's a great idea to get things started like that.
Yeah.
For what you get out of that space, a little bit more kale.
Yeah.
And kale's the sort of thing, I mean, you can leave your kale in the ground anyway until quite late. Frost doesn't really bother it, and it improves the flavor. So if it's going to be slowing down, the rate of growth is slowing down anyway.
Yeah.
We'll just leave it exposed and eat it, and then do without kale until the next. If you're really dying for kale, you can buy some at the grocery store. But if you were in a subsistence situation, you wouldn't die for lack of kale.
No.
Oh my God, we can go in the forest and make some pine needle tea or some damn thing to get your scurvy under control.
Scurvy. Yeah.
That was funny. I found back in the woods behind my house, I found Labrador tea growing next to the bog.
Oh yeah.
You ever had that before?
No.
It's well, it'll prevent the scurvy. It's got vitamin C, but it also, I think if you take enough of it, you get has a narcotic effect or something.
Oh, is this sort of like a mushroom type effect?
I don't know. And And if you take too much of it, I think it can kill you.
Oh, so I about 10 seconds ago, I was going to say, hey, when I'm over, we should try that, but not so much.
Let's binge drink it.
Yeah, not so much.
Let's have a peyote experience. Vision quest with the Labrador tea. Visions of passing out in my backyard.
Yeah. Let me think about that.
I make it. I guess I'll put
Labrador tea.
I put an amount in my pot that's equal to a tea bag of tea.
Yeah.
And it's got a sort of lemony-ish smell, and I make it if I'm feeling a little under the weather, or if I can't sleep, because if it has a narcotic effect, that's got to do something. So I've had it. I was just back there, so I cut a few branches off of a couple of the bushes and brought them home.
Yeah.
And I had Labrador tea for a number of nights.
Yeah. We all know what your real business is now.
I'm a Labrador tea dealer.
And why do they call it Labrador tea?
Well, I'm going to guess that it's more
prominent up there, or it's just
give you a sense of how how unique the microclimate is behind my house.
Yeah,
it's
really.
It's like Labrador.
Labrador. It is out there, I will admit, but
it's a high elevation relative to the sea,
right?
But there's still bog here, so I think that's why it's got because the low-lying areas in Nova Scotia aren't as cold, right?
Yeah.
Like if you go in the valley or whatever, but
right.
I think we're sort of like on the top of a hill, but there's still the wonderful benefit of being very high up, but it's still a marsh.
Yeah, a highland marsh.
Lots of ideal black fly mosquito territory.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting out there sometime before too long and trying your parsnips and washing it down with some Labrador tea.
Labrador tea, exactly. That's right. Get your wife to drive you home that way.
Good one. Cool. All right. Well, unless we missed something that we had discussed covering, I think that polishes off what we would officially call season 1.
Yeah. That does it. That's a wrap, man.
Very good. Very good. Again, we thank everybody who's listening. It's kind of a brave new world here doing the podcasting thing, but we enjoy it, and we do it because we hope you enjoy it. And by all means, please spread the word or connect with us best you can. And we look forward to having you tune in to the next episode, whenever it is and whatever it is.
That's right.
To be determined.